If you watched the news during the 80s, you probably heard of the crack baby epidemic, but a new study says the whole scare was probably overblown. Here's a taste of the news coverage back then.
These children, who are the most expensive babies ever born in America, are going to overwhelm every social service delivery system that they come in contact with throughout the rest of their lives.
During the crack baby epidemic, the New York Times reports newspapers and magazines like Rolling Stone, Newsweek, The Washington Post, and yes, even the Times itself, all ran stories that went beyond the research. The site also points fingers at network TV stars of that era, including Tom Brokaw, Peter Jennings, and Dan Rather, saying they also bear responsibility for sensationalizing reports. And the reports were sensational. Children exposed to crack cocaine in the womb were said to have developmental and behavioral disorders and were going to cause no end of social problems. Now, 30 years later, a review of 27 studies published online Monday in the journal Pediatrics concluded those problems just haven't materialized.
The researchers say they've looked at studies of 11 to 17-year-olds whose mothers smoked crack cocaine while pregnant. Studies that track children beyond infancy have failed to find any severe outcomes.
Researchers now say while some studies have linked pregnant women's cocaine use with behavioral problems, anxiety, and poor school performance, they say the effects were mostly small and may have resulted from other factors.
The most recent studies all say the same thing. There's no known connection between exposure to crack cocaine while in the mother's womb and problems in adulthood. Discover magazine even wrote in 2006, doctors argued that the stigma of being a crack baby does more damage than the crack exposure. So how did scientists get it so wrong? Popular Science suspects it's because the original 1985 study only involved 23 infants, which is way too small of a sample to make any long-term predictions. It's a lesson in what happens when a misreading of the data leads to a publicly accepted narrative, especially one that feeds on society's collective fears about the future. Doctors also say once the study was out there, the media and politicians just ran with it. One pediatrician gave Jezebel her take on how the scare got so big. It became an exciting thing to talk about. As it got into the world, it became this phenomenon. CBC reports all of the hype eventually made the doctor who spearheaded the original study, Dr. Ira Chasnov, admit that the understanding of his study had spun out of control. The new findings leave some media outlets like Science Recorder asking the legitimate question, should the term crack babies be retired? For Newsy, I'm Carissa Lathan. Multiple sources, a broader view.